Hey, TechKnowStuds! A significant advantage of this course is that I give direct certification tips and questions that you'll experience on your certification exam. So I just want to cover a couple details when it comes to the certification tips and questions that I give you throughout this course. There's a lot of different sources that I use to come up with the content of this course. And one of those is the actual bank of questions found on the certification test. This helps ensure that I cover the information thoroughly to make sure that you are successful in taking that test. Throughout the course, I've highlighted certain information that's going to be more critical for you to know, that has a high probability that it could be asked on a test. These tips come directly from those question banks. I will let you know what is going to be a high probability that you could be tested on. I've also created certification questions that cover the same content that you'll be tested on in your certification exam. Now, I haven't copied those questions exactly because I would feel that would be unethical. Plus, I'm not here to give you the answers, just to prepare you with the information that you need to know to be successful when you're passing that exam. Now, one thing you'll notice is that there'll be quite a few topics that I'm going to cover that's not related directly to a certification tip or one of the questions that I've created. And one of the reasons for that is because there's not a high likelihood that you're going to be tested on that topic specifically. However, they're still very important. And I'm going to go through the reason why it's still important to understand the concepts, even if there's not a directly related certification tip or question related to it. Here's a circle of foundational knowledge, and within it would be a bunch of different details around a topic that is foundational knowledge that we should probably have when getting into an IT career. Now I'm going to create another circle that is going to be the knowledge that you need to actually function well in the real world. This is going to be the day-to-day tasks that are going to make you successful in a job. And notice that the two are not completely overlapping. There's some information that we need that just helps us understand things that we're not actually going to be applying out there in the real world. And there's some information that's just really hard to cover in a class that you're going to learn out there in the real world. So the two are not completely overlapping. When it comes to the certification tests, they create test objectives, everything that you could be tested on. And these test objectives, a lot of times, don't mimic completely what is in the real world and what the foundational knowledge that you need to have to really understand it all. So the test objectives are something separate and is not overlapping with these other two. Now, when it comes to the test bank, it's almost always within those test objectives. Occasionally, they'll throw in a couple just test questions that fall outside the objectives, but those are just test questions and you're not really graded on those. The test bank, though, should really represent at least a subset of what those test objectives are. But I can tell you a lot of times they test you on some obscure thing, and so it doesn't really closely mimic what the real world is or what foundational knowledge you need. So as you're going through this course, you may notice that there are a lot of topics that don't have a direct certification tip or question associated with it. And that just means that there might not be a high probability you're going to get tested on it. But I still urge you to take it seriously because it could be still tested on, just not a high probability, or it could be foundational knowledge needed to really understand what that test question is going to be asking, and I have that test tip later on in the course, or it could be just information that's going to help prepare you for the real world. One example that you'll see this on is the activities that I have. I have some demos where I'll go through and I'll show you how to implement certain changes and do certain things within a lab environment. And then I also have projects, and this projects is where we're actually going to apply that knowledge. So the projects aren't going to necessarily bring in a lot of new information, but it's more application of what you're going to see out there in the real world, give you some context so you can understand these concepts better. So the project side of this is not as critical when it comes to the certification testing. However, I still think it will prepare you for that test by really rounding out your knowledge and your experience in understanding the concepts that we cover. So ultimately, I hope you really enjoy all of the course content that I created for you, but also utilize those tips and questions to really get efficient in the way you study for your certification.